Oceans are wonderful places full of life and diversity. From the tiniest plankton to the magnificent whales, the ocean is alive with creatures big and small. Yet despite our fascination, there are still things we don't know. For example, we still don't know exactly how many species call the ocean their home. One of the most sensitive species when it comes to plastic is the sea turtle. These majestic creatures travel far and wide, with life cycles that make them especially vulnerable to plastic waste. The world's oceans are home to 7 species of marine turtles: the leatherback, the hawksbill, the loggerhead, the olive ridley, the Kemp's ridley, the flatback, and the green turtle. Sadly, all 7 are endangered, and plastic pollution is only making their situation worse.
So sea turtles interact with this plastic, and it's pretty much always a negative interaction. So first, I'll talk about my leatherbacks, for example, but they only eat jellyfish. And as you might know, jellyfish and a floating plastic bag look very similar. And so when the leatherbacks swallow something, they actually have these structures in their throat to help them kind of keep the food down in a very aquatic environment. They are eating underwater, so they're not able to just spit everything out. They actually have to swallow the things that they put in their mouth. And so plastic bags, for example, cause a big issue. They get stuck in their intestines, they cause blockages or twists, or they might make the leatherback think that it's full and it's eaten enough, but it's obviously not getting any nutritional value out of this interaction. So ingestion and entanglement of plastic have a big effect on all different kinds of sea turtle species. So ingestion of plastic debris, whether it's big or small, can make a leatherback think that it's full and it's eaten food, which it hasn't. It has no nutritional value for the leatherback, and so the leatherback can starve. On a different kind of way of thinking about ingestion is that it could also block their intestinal system or create twists and eventually kill the leatherback through starvation in a different way, unfortunately. Entanglement is another issue because turtles, even though they seem strong, they're actually quite fragile, especially kind of around their neck and where their flippers are. And so if they get caught or entangled in something, they need to breathe air just like we do. So if they get entangled at depth and that gear is weighing them down, then they will die because they can't breathe. But on another sense, if they're entangled and it just kind of causes like a rubbing or an abrasion or something that can get infected, that can kill them as well. So entanglement and ingestion of plastic are also big issues.
It takes them 1 to 3 hours to dig a nest, where they'll lay an average of 100 eggs per clutch depending on the species. After laying eggs, the female will return back to the ocean, and she repeats this 2 to 8 times in one nesting season. And that is a continuous cycle that all sea turtles go through. Doesn't sound very easy, does it?
Another way they might impact leatherbacks, are particularly on the scale of microplastics, is that not only contributing to that feeling full, but also on the nesting beaches, microplastics are changing the temperature of nesting beaches because the way that sand and plastic kind of retain heat are different. And because sea turtles have temperature-dependent sex determination, that means that the temperature of the beach determines whether they will be male or female. And so if we're having hotter beaches, for example, that means more females, which might seem like a good thing until there are only females in the population and it becomes a very, very bad thing. So the types of plastic that sea turtles will encounter throughout their life, I tend to think of as 3 broad categories. So the first type of plastic is because humans are active in the marine environment. So sea turtles migrate throughout entire oceanic spaces, like my leatherbacks that I study, they go across the whole Pacific Ocean. And so they're going to encounter things that might have fallen off of fishing vessels or been cut off. So things like nets and lines and operations from fishing gear. So that's kind of one category. The second category that I would think of are things that have just ended up in the ocean, not because they started there or they were intended to be there, but things like single-use plastics, so those straws or those plastic bags that we always hear about. And the last category I think of is microplastics, and so those plastics are breaking down over time and becoming so small that you can't even see them in the human eye. So this is affecting sea turtles not only on their nesting beaches, but also throughout the ocean and even in the food they eat. It is an absolutely fabulous time to be working in the conservation space because I am inspired every single day by the role of communities in conservation efforts. So I have been part of and seen many beach cleanups organized in pretty much every country I've worked, and this is a really great way for the community to contribute directly to some of these conservation threats and help mitigate those threats for sea turtles. In terms of other ways that the community can help, having this information available to them and educating others is a really powerful tool. we live in a world of technology, and so though I didn't grow up anywhere near the beach where it happened, I am pretty sure I and many other people saw the video of a straw being pulled out of a sea turtle's nose. And I've met that scientist, and he also said he didn't expect that to go so viral, but it's been a huge kind of way of banning plastic straws in many different nations. So that's been really incredible. So education and also interacting on a local scale, it definitely makes a difference. In terms of policymakers, things like plastic bans, so reducing our use of single-use plastics. We always have this mantra, of course, of reduce, reuse, recycle, and that's been adapted to include things like repair or refuse to use plastic if it's an option that you can take, as well as rethink, so rethink the way we're using plastics and what else could we potentially use. There's fabulous research going on at UWA. Anna Faber is doing research on enzymes that can digest plastic, and so thinking about how microbes have a role to play as well. So thinking outside of the box. I tend to be a very optimistic conservationist, but I truly believe that people are innovative and very passionate about these issues, and so there are a lot of ways that the community and all the just policymakers can help mitigate this threat.
Let's turn the tide on plastic pollution for the turtles, for the ocean, and for our planet. Together, we can make a difference.